We all know the tragic story of the Titanic sailing into doom on her maiden voyage. It was an immense disaster that cost 1,500 lives, all people who drowned inside the ship during the sinking or froze to death in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. The main problem that night was that there apparently were no ships nearby the Titanic, no rescue vessels close enough to directly interact with Titanic's crew and offer some aid during the evacuation. But how could that be? The Atlantic was sort of the highway between Europe and the USA. It was constantly used by multiple shipping lines to ferry passengers and cargo between the continents. Where were all the well-known ocean liners of that time, and why was there so few traffic in Titanic's area? In this video, we hopefully find some answers to these questions. It is well known that on April 14, 1912, Titanic was not alone in the area she sank in. During her maiden voyage, and especially on April 14th, she received ice warnings from several ships doing the North Atlantic run. Examples for such ships would be the RMS Baltic, the RMS Coronia, the SS America, the SS Noordam, the Mesaba, and the Californian. According to these ice warnings, it was very clear that there was a huge ice field in the way, which became a decent problem for the ships trying to hold their course. The image of a missing ship traffic in that fateful night is not true. Thanks to the warnings, we know that even some notable names, like the Baltic of the White Star Line, the Coronia of the Cunard Line, and the America of Hamburg America Line were present. But we have to take into account that the North Atlantic is a wide ocean. Even under perfect conditions, it was not guaranteed to meet other ships during a voyage. Another important point is that the traffic was slowed down due to the ice field. There are reports of ships like the Californian, which had to stop in the ice field, not being able to move any further until sunrise. It was said that ice fields are better passed quickly, but that strategy only worked with daylight and good view. It was a huge risk Titanic's crew were taking to steer her into the ice field during night and bad view, not reducing her speed significantly, a risk that eventually caused her sinking. Titanic left Southampton in days of turmoil. There was a big strike going on, carried out by coal workers fighting for better working conditions. This resulted in a shortage of coal, which affected the coal distribution at Southampton and other British ports. It is known that Titanic's crew had to organize tons of coal that was meant for other vessels laying in the harbor. These were vessels that were not able to join the transatlantic passage due to a lack of fuel. Among those were several Royal Mail liners, the RMS Majestic, the RMS Oceanic, the SS St. Louis, and the SS New York. It is pretty safe to assume that in the harbor of Liverpool, there were similar problems which thinned out the traffic on the North Atlantic even more. This, of course, was not a helpful contribution to the dramatic situation in the night of April 14th. We already talked about some known names that were present on the North Atlantic during Titanic's sinking. But where were the really famous names? Let's start with the RMS Lusitania of the Cunard Line. She reportedly was located at the harbor of Liverpool, most likely waiting for coal. And she needed a lot of coal in order to maintain her high speeds. Her sister ship, the RMS Mauretania, was located at Queenstown when Titanic sank. She was exchanging passengers and cargo just like Titanic did a few days before her. The White Star liner RMS Adriatic was located at Liverpool, just like the Lusitania, exchanging passengers and cargo and refueling her coal bunkers. She should be sailing from April 18th and arriving at New York a few days after the Titanic disaster. There, she would bring some former Titanic passengers and survivors back to Europe, among them Bruce Ismay. Titanic's sister, the Olympic, was heading east, having departed New York on April 13th. Unfortunately, she was too far away from the Titanic to be of any help. SS Kaiserin Auguste Victoria, sister of the already mentioned SS America, was located at Cuxhaven, taking on passengers and cargo, preparing for her next departure to New York. So one could say she was very far away from the scene. SS La Provence of the French line was eastbound that night, heading for Le Havre. Unfortunately, just like Olympic, she was too far away to be able to come to Titanic's aid. RMS Franconia was lying at Boston, taking on passengers and cargo. Her route to Liverpool would first lead her to Quebec, completely removing her from the North Atlantic main route. RMS Coronia, the sister ship of RMS Franconia, was eastbound during Titanic's sinking, heading for Queenstown. Sadly, she was out of reach by the time the Titanic requested assistance. RMS Celtic was 700 miles away from Titanic's position when she picked up the distress call. Being westbound and too far away, there was nothing she could do. RMS Cedric was located at New York when the SOS of Titanic was broadcasted. She was preparing for her eastbound crossing and wasn't an option for Titanic. Thanks to all this information, it becomes clear that Titanic wasn't that alone on the North Atlantic route. She just confronted the iceberg at the wrong time. Had the collision taken place only one day later, ships like the Olympic or La Provence perhaps could have been in reach and could have come to the rescue. But disasters always are a sum up of critical factors that, in combination, create the ultimate doom. And the doom of the 1,500 people who lost their lives that night was the location the Titanic struck the iceberg.